All of its forms, the Salem witch craze, is occurring in our country now and needs to be stopped.
It's called repressed memory therapy. Some say it's brainwashing. Are some therapists planting false memories in the minds of their patients?
In sports, it's Daytona deja vu for a NASCAR driver who already had his share of thrills and spills.
Far East Side, West Side, and we're talking the globe. Fashion designer Mary McFadden springs her fall collection on us this morning.
And sealed with a kiss, and the president keeps on trucking.
This is CNN Morning News. 90 minutes of news, interviews, and viewer phone calls with Donna Kelly and Bob Kane at the CNN Center in Atlanta.
Good morning. We begin this morning with this question. Is a complicated peace treaty enough to stop the killing that's raged unchecked across Bosnia-Herzegovina for more than a year? The United Nations is optimistic, and the people trapped in Bosnia sure hope so. But the Clinton administration is skeptical and is preparing a possible military response just in case. The leader of Bosnia's Serbs, Radovan Karadzic, signed the plan during last-ditch talks in Greece yesterday. It was put together by mediators Cyrus Vance and Lord David Owen. The plan would divide Bosnia along ethnic lines into 10 separate provinces. 65 to 75,000 NATO troops could be used to keep the peace. Karadzic's signature means nothing, however, unless the parliament that represents Bosnia's Serbs approves the treaty. They've already rejected it twice, and hardliners are vowing not to change their mind now. A vote is scheduled for Wednesday. Still, people in the former Yugoslavia are hopeful.
I heard from you that Karadzic signed the contract of peace, and I'm very glad to hear that. I hope that all children in our country like to hear that, because I hope they like peace too.
We just heard in the car at radio that Radovan Karadzic signed this Vance-Owen contract, and we are very happy. We think he could do it, or he should do it before, but it is now also okay, and we hope the world will consider now the plans about military action in Bosnia. We hope they will not do it, and that is the new beginning, new start for peace.
The Clinton administration is wary. It calls the agreement a positive sign, but Secretary of State Warren Christopher continues meeting with allies in Europe. He's trying to sell them on a U.S. plan of possible military action if the Serbs do not honor the peace plan. And in Bosnia today, sporadic fighting is reported. At least 2 people died in Sarajevo during shelling.
It's 3.5 minutes past the hour. Investigators say a gunshot wound to the head apparently killed cult leader David Koresh, but they are not saying whether Koresh shot himself. Koresh's remains were pulled from the rubble of the Branch Davidian compound near Waco over a week ago, but it's taken this long to firmly identify him and release the news. 77 people are believed to have died during the fire, which destroyed the compound April 19th. Koresh was apparently by himself during the final confrontation with authorities. Officials say Koresh's remains were discovered in the kitchen area of the huge complex. One explained how the body was identified.
There was extensive studies done with regards to the molds of his mouth, also x-rays, body x-rays in particular too, in regards to the wound that Mr. Koresh had received during the initial confrontation on February the 28th. The x-rays that were performed by the TCMC indicated a wound such as was described by Mr. Koresh. There were also molds done relevant to his face and, as I said, the jawbone area with relation to the dental.
The standoff began February 28th after 4 federal agents were killed when they went to the cult compound to serve warrants.
An aerial stunt ended in a fiery crash in front of hundreds of thousands of people at a weekend air show in California. One of the aircraft in the show was a vintage Korean war jet. The pilot was putting his F-86 Sabre through its paces, including a loop and a barrel roll, when suddenly the fighter slammed into the ground. Pilot James Gregory died instantly. No one on the ground was hurt, and the crash is being investigated.
The co-owner of the world's largest winery is dead. Giulio Gallo was killed yesterday when the Jeep he was driving went off a road and plunged 35 feet down an embankment. Giulio Gallo and his brother Ernest grew up working in the vineyard owned by their immigrant father. The Gallo brothers started their own business in 1933 and built it into a billion-dollar-a-year empire. 2 family members are hospitalized after yesterday's accident. Giulio Gallo was in his 80s. At least 5 people, including 1 child, are dead this morning after fire tore through a New York City apartment building. Firefighters say the flames broke out on the 2nd floor of a 7-story brick building in East Harlem. The fire chief on the scene attributes most of the fatalities to smoke inhalation, but he also says there was, in his words, blood everywhere.
The Kennedy family is reportedly selling its estate in Palm Beach, Florida. Newsweek magazine quotes a source close to the family as saying the property is worth about $3.6 million. The house has been in the family for decades, and it was part of the focus of the William Kennedy Smith rape case 2 years ago. CNN has obtained a copy of a letter from Kansas Senator Robert Dole calling for the government to spend $23 million for a boathouse. Senator Dole recently led the battle against President Clinton's economic stimulus package, and Republicans ridiculed the plan for its allegedly wasteful projects. The Dole letter concerns a Wichita, Kansas senior citizen center and asks approval to renovate the structure for use as a boathouse for the general public. Senator Dole says he does not know anything about the letter.
Coming up to 7 minutes past the hour now, President Clinton took a different route than usual for his daily jog yesterday and got a reward, a sloppy one. He jogged over to his alma mater, Georgetown University. As always, he attracted a crowd of admirers, one more ardent than the rest.
Hi. Hey, how you doing? Mr. President. Let's go.
After the kiss, Mr. Clinton began running again. He made a beeline for the White House.
A beeline, huh? Oh, well, it looked like a nice day there.
And it's a nice day today, too, some places.
Steve Koch is here, and he'll take a look at the weather for you. Steve?
Bob and Donna, we're watching a couple of major weather systems move across the country, but you're right, we do have some good-looking weather in portions of the southwest, the southern plains, most of the central plains. The east is kind of cloudy and kind of stormy, too, and it will move in your area. If you don't have rain yet, more than likely you will. Watching another big system here just to the south of the Aleutian Islands in the Gulf of Alaska, going to move again, bringing more rain to British Columbia, especially Oregon and Washington. Going to bring in some rainfall amounts, some hefty rainfall amounts, too. 1 to 2 inches of rain. So as you're heading out the door, make sure you carry an umbrella to work or school. You're going to need it. There will be some snow also, snow advisories in the Oregon Cascades currently for 6 to 10 inches of fresh, new, heavy, wet snow. Also a winter storm watch in effect for northwestern area of Wyoming, where they could see up to a foot of fresh new powder. Some unseasonably cold air moving into that region. Meanwhile, in the east, it's warm enough that you'll find the tropical showers and thunderstorms. Some 1 to 3 inch rainfall amounts are possible later on today as this front and all the moisture that's feeding up from the Gulf of Mexico is feeding into this region here. By tomorrow, the front washes out, the low pressure trough is left over. Clouds and rain will continue to move to the east and northeast. And look at the cold air funneling in through the spine of the Rocky Mountain states. Some heavy wet snow, some unusual weather for May. That's a quick look at the weather picture for right now. Back to you, Donna.
Thank you, Steve. First, for the Space Shuttle Columbia, controllers in Germany used the shuttle's robot arm yesterday to capture a floating die. It was the first time that a robot commanded from Earth has grabbed a free floating object in space. Columbia's flight has been extended 1 day and is now scheduled to end on Thursday. CNN will cover the shuttle landing live, and that's Thursday at 9:02 a.m. Eastern.
Minutes past the hour. Have you ever experienced something so traumatic that you tried to forget about it? It is the job of a therapist to get to the root of emotional trauma.
Our special assignment Monday report, Guilt by Memory, looks at the difficulty two families are facing because of repressed memory. Here's CNN's Kathy Slobogan.
She said it started around 5 years old.
I supposedly drugged her mother so that I could take her out of the house at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and abuse her.
The family's been ruined, but my daughter's been ruined more. She's lost her childhood. She's lost her parents. She's lost her aunts and uncles, you know, everyone.
4 years ago, Liz and Roger LaPlante's world was shattered. Their 33-year-old daughter told them that Roger had sexually abused her in bizarre satanic rituals.
I made her murder 3 babies, and she saw me murder so many she lost track.
It just didn't happen. The only one that abused my daughter, I think, was their counselors.
Roger LaPlante denies the abuse. He's passed a lie detector test supporting his position. There are no legal charges. But his daughter, who's not responded to an interview request, still believes her father's guilty because of memories she recovered during therapy. Memories she believes were repressed for nearly 30 years.
We are presumed guilty, that's it. There is no defense in a case like this.
The system doesn't work for people like us. We were accused, tried, convicted, and hung, sentenced without ever meeting anybody and even knowing it was happening.
The LaPlantes now have no contact with their daughter.
And I assume that you're either falsely accused or very artful liars, one of the two.
They've joined a support group of other parents who say they've been falsely accused by children in their 30s and 40s who didn't remember the abuse until they went to a therapist. There are now more than 3,000 of these families.
We didn't spend our lives raising our children and taking care of them for this to happen in the ages we're in now. We planned on spending time with our grandchildren, taking them on trips. They've taken our future away, is what's happened here. They've taken our daughter, who I mean, how do you describe a daughter? A daughter is love and caring, and they've just destroyed that.
They just kind of come in our life and laid this at our feet. But I was a child molester.
Chuck Noah is a man determined to clear his name. A father of 5, grandfather to 10, he too is a parent accused by his daughter of sexual abuse.
I just don't want my little children saying Grandpa was a pedophile. I will not stand for it.
Chuck Noah has become a one-man crusade against the therapists he feels have brainwashed his daughter and others. 2 years ago, at the age of 33, she accused him of sexually abusing her when she was 6 years old. She says she remembered the abuse in therapy.
It all starts with therapists. It all starts with therapists.
She said, this is so awful that I have to call my therapist periodically to be sure it's true.
The Noahs raised 4 other daughters. All of them say the sexual abuse of their sister never happened.
We just know it's not true, and our dad did not do this.
There were 5 girls in a bedroom. My mom didn't work, and she didn't have a car, and so I don't know. She doesn't explain a lot of it, but all of it is news to us.
Chuck Noah has also passed a lie detector test, but it's made no difference to his daughter or her therapist. They both refuse to be interviewed on camera. The Noah's daughter no longer sees them or comes to family get-togethers. Jean was the closest to her sister.
Yeah, I was shocked.
What's it done to you?
No. All our friends used to say, how'd you raise such fine girls? What'd you do? All of a sudden, they're acting like we would allow little babies to be hurt and all these things.
These families are the underside of the crusade to save children from sexual abuse. For too long, child abuse was ignored and victims weren't believed. But now the pendulum may have swung the other way. Within the therapeutic community itself, there are fears that a significant number of therapists trained to work with incest victims may see sexual abuse where it doesn't exist. That in their zeal to uncover abuse, they may be inducing so-called repressed memories in vulnerable patients, memories which may be false. The theory behind repressed memory is that small children who are abused bury the memories because they're so traumatic. To get at those memories, therapists use techniques like hypnosis or getting the patient to imagine abuse that might have happened. And there are books, like The Courage to Heal, the Bible of the repressed memory movement. It says things like, if you don't remember your abuse, you're not alone. Or, if you think you were abused and your life shows the symptoms, then you were.
Keep going with it. She's got a hold of him. You're doing great.
There are many patients who believe in their memories, believe they are the key to their recovery.
I feel too disgusted. I can't believe that I met her when someone hurts me.
This is an incest survivors therapy group. Linda is symbolically confronting her father for abusing her, abuse she did not remember until she was 33, and which her father denies.
I didn't deserve it. I don't want you to ever touch me again. Ever.
Good. Say that again.
Did you ever touch me?
Great, great. Keep going.
Repressed memory therapy is one of the fastest growing trends in the mental health field. Many therapists who work in this area say false memories are rare.
The number of cases that I've seen where the memories are false are very, very, very few.
Psychologist Renee Fredrickson is a leader in repressed memory work.
I know there's a group that would like to believe and purports to believe that this problem is caused by therapists misattributing authenticity, and I wish that were true, but it hasn't been what I've seen. There are far more sexual predators than there are bad therapists.
The therapeutic community itself has difficulty overseeing what goes on inside the privacy of a therapist's office. The question whether some therapists are leading patients towards memories is a sensitive one and difficult to prove. Because such a large number of families have been wrenched apart through this process, we decided to go into therapy undercover. Before taking that step, CNN consulted a psychologist with extensive expertise in this area. We asked him to help us define symptoms for our undercover producer, which would not necessarily point to child abuse.
Basically, I've just been kind of depressed. I guess it started about 8 months ago.
Our CNN producer took a hidden camera to tape this therapist, whose identity we decided not to reveal. But she's typical of the type of therapist causing concern. She has counseled at least 6 people we know of who went to her for other reasons and came out accusing their parents of sexual abuse. The words here are her own, but we've substituted another voice.
You mean your sexual intimacy?
Yeah.
Our producer said her depression had affected her marriage and lessened her interest in sex. She discussed her family history, and the therapist asked about childhood memories. At the end of the very first session, the therapist suggested a diagnosis.
It seems to me that you have the symptoms of someone who could have experienced some sexual trauma.
Our producer never suggested she had been sexually abused and said she had no memory of it.
Do you get many women like this?
Many.
And they forget?
Yes. They forget. They have no idea. In fact, I mean, what you've presented to me, Leanne, is so classic that I'm just sitting here blown away, actually.
The therapist then told our producer to read a book about repressed memories.
It didn't seem like me.
In a second session, our producer expressed strong doubts about the possibility of abuse. The therapist didn't force it, but she went on to describe how repressed memory works.
I mean, if something bad happened to you, I would think that you'd remember it.
You're right. If something bad happens, you really remember it. But if something too bad happens to you, so bad that you can't cope with it, you forget it.
In the last year or two, it has become a major theme amongst therapists, and a large number of patients and families have been drawn into this pseudo-memory and false memory business.
Dr. Paul McHugh is chief of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins Medical School and a critic of repressed memory techniques.
A witch hunt essentially identical in all of its forms to the Salem which craze is occurring in our country now and needs to be stopped, both to protect people, get people proper therapy, and to sustain the trust of our public in psychotherapy and psychiatrists.
Can a child forget sustained sexual abuse?
No. In our work here, in which we have proof that they were systematically abused, they remember.
Dr. McHugh is not alone. Memory researchers like Elizabeth Loftus have grave doubts about the validity of repressed memories.
False memories can sound very, very real.
Loftus is at work on an experiment where subjects are told by a trusted family member that they were lost in a shopping mall when they were small.
We convinced them that they were lost, that they were very unhappy, they were crying. We're seeing that people will adopt this suggestion, they'll elaborate upon it. 2 weeks later, they are telling you exactly where this happened. It was in front of the Hickory Farm store, and it looks exactly like a real memory.
But why would people be so willing to believe their own parents had abused them?
I thought it was the only way I could get better. That's what the books said, to uncover more memories and more memories.
Melody Gavigan and Lynn Gondolf call themselves retractors. They're part of a small but growing network of former patients who say their abuse memories were false, created by therapists who pressured them to imagine abuse.
Did you have doubts? Yeah, and when you ask them, they've got a good answer for that too. It's normal, it's natural, it's denial.
Why would anybody make up these memories if they weren't true?
Because it gives you a simple explanation for the pain that you're in.
If you go to the right therapist at a right time in your life, seeking an answer and believing the answers you're given, you're susceptible. This can happen to anybody. It's not people who have, quote, problems. This can happen to anybody.
You made me feel so ugly.
We aren't saying abuse does not happen. Abuse does happen. We are saying our daughter, we did not abuse our daughter, ever. Would not even think of abusing our children or anyone else's children. We love children.
The reality is there's a lot of child abuse, a great deal of which is never discovered. And there are many therapists who give their patients appropriate treatment. But if therapists tolerate accusations that are false and families are torn apart in the process, then the fight against the injustice of child abuse may be creating another injustice in its wake. Kathy Slobogin, CNN Special Assignment.
Coming up on Morning News, we will meet CNN Special Assignment reporter Kathy Slobogin.
Kathy will tell us more about repressed memory and the impact it's having on thousands of families nationwide. Don't go away.
CNN Special Assignment correspondent Kathy Slobogin joins us now in our Washington Bureau. Good morning, Kathy.
Hi.
Tell us first what the upshot of all this has been in terms of litigation. Has this controversy, the controversy itself, found its way into courtrooms?
It has. A significant number of the people in the parent support group that we mentioned in the piece are involved in litigation. Their children are suing them based on repressed memories. And there are at least 15 states which have extended their statute of limitations, allowing people with memories of long ago abuse to sue. And in fact, some large amounts of money have been awarded in these suits. In one case, $500,000.
What is the financial aspect of this, Kathy?
Well, there is a big financial aspect to this. Repressed memory therapy is often very expensive. One expert said 8 to 10 times the cost of average mental health therapy. That's because the sessions go on for longer, they're often more frequent. And one psychologist that we interviewed who reviews insurance claims is quite alarmed by this because he says that it's draining the insurance pool, making it harder for other patients who need mental health therapy to get it.
Are the critics saying that all repressed memories are false?
No, not at all. Many experts believe that the mind can repress memories of very traumatic events. The problem comes when therapists pressure their patients, when they come to this diagnosis prematurely, and when they use unreliable methods to try to convince patients of these memories. And of course, families can be torn up in the process.
We who watched your report came away feeling that at least some of these people who report repressed memories have been manipulated and that there were no such memories to begin with. Did we come away with an accurate and appropriate sense?
I think that's a fair impression. Of course, one never knows what really happened in any of these cases, but I think that there's enough evidence out there that something has gone wrong with the therapeutic process in some of these cases.
Kathy Slobogin, thanks for talking with us.
Thank you.
All right. If you'd like to contact the CNN Special Assignment staff, the address is Post Office Box 2727, Atlanta, Georgia, 30301.
And coming up on the morning news, a man who helped Chrysler turn the corner is going to take a turn at IBM. Kitty Pilgrim will join us to update today's financial news when we come back.
Well, that was a big... $29 before the hour. Let's do some business.
Indeed, with Kitty Pilgrim at the New York Stock Exchange. Morning, Kitty.
Good morning, Bob, Donna. The much-anticipated health care reform package could cost up to $150 billion a year, according to today's New York Times. The article says sources advising the president are reviewing the price of 3 different packages. The cost would vary depending on the scope of guaranteed benefits. The plan is expected to be unveiled later this month. Jerome York, Chrysler's chief financial officer, is leaving the giant car maker. He has accepted the job of chief financial officer at IBM. York, who had been at Chrysler for 14 years, helped turn around the company. 2 reports out today on the nation's economy. At 10 a.m., the Commerce Department will release figures on construction spending for March. The report is expected to show an 0.8% decline. Also out at 10 a.m., the National Association of Purchasing Managers Index for April. This report shows whether the manufacturing sector is expanding, and analysts are expecting an increase in orders. And with a look at the credit markets, the Treasury's 30-year issue is up 1/32 in price. That's sending the yield down to 6.92%. Trading is just starting here on Wall Street. In the early going, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down more than 2 points. That's the latest in financial news from the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Kitty Pilgrim.
Coming up on Morning News, our international newsreel.
Thousands of workers go on strike in eastern Germany. We'll tell you why right after this.
Here's a look at some stories making headlines around the world.
Thousands of steel and machinery workers are participating in eastern Germany's first legal strike in 60 years. The strikers are protesting a broken promise to bring their wages in line with Western Germany's, or what used to be Western Germany. The strikes could spread in the coming weeks unless salary demands are met.
A second group of Palestinian deportees and their families left Jordan today, headed home to the West Bank after years in exile. Israel agreed to their return to encourage progress in the Arab-Israeli peace talks. 15 other deportees returned to the occupied territories last Friday.
Jordan, in the meantime, is celebrating King Hussein's 40 years on the throne. The popular monarch was treated to parades, marching bands, and military flyovers yesterday. Mr. Hussein was crowned king in 1953 at the age of 17. He's survived assassination attempts, coup plots, and several wars.
The United Nations takes control tomorrow of the U.S.-led Operation Restore Hope in Somalia. Most U.S. troops have already left that war-weary country. About 4,000 are still there to provide logistical support and a quick reaction force. U.S. officials say they achieved their primary objective, to ensure delivery of food to thousands of starving Somalis.
Authorities have reportedly identified the suicide bomber who assassinated Sri Lanka's president on Saturday as a suspected Tamil rebel. Thousands of mourners are paying their last respects to President Ranasinghe Premadasa today. His body lies in state in the Sri Lankan capital. 23 other people were killed and 60 injured in that blast.
In the Philippines, President Fidel Ramos has ordered Manila's main garbage dump closed and leveled so it can be replaced by a low-cost housing project. Many Filipinos are protesting the move because they make their living picking through the piles of refuse looking for scraps to sell.
The British government is hedging a bit on a pre-election promise to make sure every pint of beer is a full pint. Brewers estimate filling each glass to the rim would cost about $628 million a year and cut into the profits of pub owners. British beer drinkers consume about 28 million pints a day. The NBA's best regular season team could take a quick tumble right out of the playoffs.
When Morning News continues, Mark McKay will join us with that story in sports.
The ball was just out of his hand. Knocked it down.
McKay is here with sports for you on this Monday morning. I was just getting my memory refreshed to see if it's best of 7 or best of 5, so I'm squared away on that now. 5.
Yeah, we're talking NBA playoffs. Unlike the NHL, their first round best of 5, it doesn't give the Phoenix Suns a whole lot of time to recover. All of a sudden, Laker pride is running rampant. Los Angeles needs to win just one of the next 3 games in its opening round series to not only move on, but bounce out the powerful Phoenix Suns, winners of 62 regular season games. Over the weekend, Charles Barkley and company lost their home court edge. Little acting job from Vlade Divac there as Charles gives him a nudge. I tell you what, the Lakers were on from the start. On a 13-2 run in the second quarter, they built themselves an 8-point lead, led going into halftime, and then here come the Suns. Kevin Johnson to Charles Barkley, and a 10-point Phoenix advantage. But the Lakers closed the gap late. Under 3 minutes to play, the shot clock winding down. James Worthy hits the 3, tie ball game. Then, with under 2 minutes to play, it's Vlade Divac. He had 4 of his 19 as the game wound down. Lakers' lead was 2 at that point. They win by 5, and James Worthy tries his best to explain the unexplainable.
And sometimes just one unit together, collectively working together, can create a lot of energy and a lot of confidence, and I think that's something that we're trying to build on.
We're going to win the series. We're going to win one Tuesday, and the next game's Thursday. We'll win there, then we'll come back and we'll win the series on Sunday. And everybody will say what a great series it was. It has been a great series, just we haven't liked it too much. Because we're a better team than the Lakers, and we will win.
A bold prediction, to say the least. While LA's NBA team soars, the city's NHL franchise slipped up in the first game of the Smythe Division Final. Vancouver fans had their game faces on as the Kings came a-calling last night. First period scoreless till Dixon Ward gets the puck to trickle in off Rob Stauber's pads. 1-0 Canucks lead. 1-1. Later in the first, Cliff Ronning shoots it wide. Dana Murzin steps in from the point. At 1 times it past Stauber. 2-1 Vancouver. Rod Stauber out of the crease. He can't regain position, and Dave Babich takes advantage. 5-2 Vancouver. That's the final margin. Canucks lead the series. All the Stanley Cup and NBA playoff results are coming right up. First baseball, where Barry Bonds has made a giant impression in a San Francisco uniform just 1 month into the Major League season. He's already tied for the National League home run lead with teammate Matt Williams. Bonds' 8th big fly of the year was launched Sunday. The Giants hosting Montreal at the Stick. They've already got a 2-1 lead in the 6th, and Bonds makes it 3-run as he comes around, gets a high five from his dad, and Will Clark congratulates him as well. 3-1 Giants. In fact, this game would go close right to the end. Barry Bonds makes a tremendous stop to save a run. 3-all tie, 10th inning. Mike Benjamin goes deep to left field. Game winner right. Lou Frazier says no way. They will play on. Bottom of the 11th inning. Giants with a man on. Bonds singles to left field. Here comes Frazier again, this time throwing home. But the throw is too late. Willie McGee scores the game winner. Giants have taken 6 in a row. Let's roll out all of Sunday's scores. Monica Seles returned to the United States Sunday, still understandably shaken after being stabbed in the back during a tennis tournament in Hamburg, Germany on Friday. The women's top-ranked player in the world says she is feeling a little better. Seles has reportedly gone to Colorado to seek further treatment and evaluation at the Steadman Hawkins Clinic in Vail. NASCAR Winston Cup points champion leader Rusty Wallace is sitting in a Birmingham hospital this morning after taking an unexpected tumble across the finish line yesterday at Talladega. The Winston 500 final lap. It's Wallace going end over end. His car did cross the finish line in 6th place. Small consolation. Wallace he didn't walk away from this accident. He was taken to the Birmingham hospital where a broken wrist and a concussion. That's all that came out of that very scary accident. That's it for now. More of the morning news straight ahead.
Well, just ahead on morning news, it's spring, so some are wondering what's hot and what's not for fall and winter.
Fashion designer Mary McFadden shows us some of her ideas. In our lifestyle segment today, we'll spring into fall and winter fashions with a top designer. Mary McFadden has been designing clothing since the early 1970s, and while spring is here in reality, it is long gone for the fashion world. Designers are hoping, of course, people are flaunting their spring-summer collections by now, and it's time to sell fall and winter. A scholar and art history lecturer, Mary McFadden mixes historical and cultural events and costumes when putting together her designs. She joins us from New York with a look at her affordable designs. And Mary, we're glad you could join us today.
Thank you, Donna. It's lovely to be here.
Well, we're glad you could be here. Let's start with some old business then. Since you're looking ahead to fall and winter, tell us a little bit more about what your spring collection has and what you titled it and why.
The spring collection was dedicated to the Celtic period, and it was based on the inspiration of a wonderful medieval manuscript called the Book of Kells. And so in it, now for instance, that beautiful white quilted jacket has the embroidery is like an illumination in the Book of Kells, and it is shown with transparent organza pants. And transparency and delicate layering is very important for spring.
You know, Mary, I think it's so interesting. I was reading in a report that some people say that you can lose them because you're so advanced in your understanding of the history and the art that you use to design, but they say that's all right because you can enjoy your collection anyway.
Oh, that's nice they say that. At any rate, we try to have the most beautiful embroideries in each collection.
Look ahead, if you will, for us to your fall collection. And what is that titled, and how did you come by that?
Well, that is dedicated to the Ottoman Sultans, which is the 16th century in Turkey. And the coat that you're seeing, the type of embroidery and the way it's cut would be the way in which a 16th century sultan would wear to the palace every morning when he goes to meet his ministers. And so the collection has wonderful, again, in Iznik tiles, which come from the town of Iznik. And it has wonderful brocades, which were made at a town called Bursa in Turkey. And so the whole theory of this collection is to take people back with beautiful embroideries of the 16th century in today's time.
You have a less expensive line. You've titled that, and you also brought some models along with you this morning. So let's get a chance to see what they are wearing.
Well, this is my less expensive line. It's called Bridge Designer. This is my favorite model, Deanne DeWitt, and she's wearing a checked wool suit with antique buttons, and you notice again the slit. If you're going to wear long skirts, you must have them tight and slit to show a lot of leg. And Isabel is wearing, again, a checked wool suit, which you can wear to the office, very tight with a big slit. And they're both wearing very oversized, large berets and extravagant gold jewelry for effect.
Now, you say the gold jewelry is extravagant. Tell us what the suits cost, since this is your less expensive line.
Okay, I'm trying to make every suit to come in at $1,000. Our range in this Bridge Designer collection is $700 to $1,300, and it's sold at Bergdorf and Saks and Neiman Marcus across our country.
And do you have some other outfits that you brought?
Yes, I certainly do.
Okay, let's carry on with them.
Well, the next group you're going to see are a group of 4-ply crepe cocktail dresses in brilliant emerald greens and brilliant saffron. And here it is right now. Here's Hortensia wearing a 4-ply crepe cocktail suit in, which is 2-piece, and it has the beautiful jeweled epaulets. And it's wonderful because 4-ply crepe is so heavy that it doesn't crease. Most of the fabrications in this designer line are so heavy, or they're made of rayon, or they're boucle, or they're various types of fanciful brocades. And the theory is that they will go from day into cocktail wear. Thank you, Hortensia.
Okay, let's go back. We can have some more pictures while the ladies get changed. Tell us a little bit about the fabrics that you choose. Fabric is very important to you, and I was interested in what you're very famous for, your pleating.
Yes, my Mari pleating is my major signature fabric, and I've developed that about 20 years ago. And it's a wonderful fabric because it's pleated and you don't have to maintain it, and the creases never go out. And the other fabrication I love is quilting, because I've developed a very thin quilt that is like a wonderful piece of architecture on the body, and it too requires no maintenance, so that if you have a hectic life of airplanes and trains and buses, you can always be at your destination looking fresh and crisp, and because of that, you can get that much more work done.
Talking about planes and trains and destinations, tell us a little bit about your upcoming trip to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing Mecca and Medina, which I've always wanted to see. And also I'm going to be able to go to Lebanon to some various, and meet the Prime Minister there, which I'm looking forward to as well.
And they have a speedy change, and one of your models is ready again. Let's take a look.
How nice. And now here again is Diane DeWitt. She's wearing one of my favorite suits in this collection. It is again 4-ply crepe, but notice that the cuffs and the lapels and the pocket toppings are quilted in 4-ply crepe, and it too again is worn with an oversized beret, and it can go from I've shown most of these 4-ply crepe suits either with a long tight skirt or with pants for day into evening. Thank you,
And
Diane.
how much is this one?
This one is $1,200.
All right. And our next one?
Our next one is matelassé, a brocade has very beautiful buttons on it, and it is shown with 4-ply crepe side slit skirt for a very nice, very practical, no maintenance evening suit. Thank you, Isabel.
Give us an idea, Mary, what you're trying to design when you have suits that many of us need to take to work and wear to work and then go into the evening.
I think that's a really important part of our life, is that we should wear, that most of our wardrobe should take us from day into evening. And so these suits that I'm showing to you have that feeling. This one, of course, is a complete cocktail dress. This is a fanciful brocade, and it's wonderful for cocktail parties and for dinner. And it's worn with a 4-ply crepe pant.
Fashion designer Mary McFadden, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for asking me.
You bet. Bob?
And still to come on Morning News, entertainer Bob Hope says thanks for yet another year of memories. At the top of the hour, recapping our lead stories on Morning News, sporadic fighting reported today in parts of Bosnia-Herzegovina, the day after a peace agreement was signed that is supposed to end the ethnic civil war that has raged there for more than a year. The leader of Bosnia's Serbs, Radovan Karadzic, signed the plan during last-ditch talks yesterday in Greece. It was engineered by mediators Cyrus Vance and Lord David Owen, but has yet to be approved by the parliament that represents Bosnia's Serbs. The plan would divide Bosnia along ethnic lines into 10 separate provinces. It requires, among other things, for the Serbs to surrender about one-third.
Is CNN.